Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the launch of Small Business for Reform. And for those watching at home, what you have in the room, and they've all travelled today to London, are 300 small business owners. Today is the beginning of something that we intend to be very, very large indeed. The sheer level of disconnect between the front benches in Westminster and what these men and women do in their lives has never been greater at any time in our history. This Labour government has absolutely no comprehension of what it's like to set up a small business, to run a small business, and to meet a monthly payroll. None of them have ever done it. None of them get it. And as for the Conservative Party, which over the years would have said that it did stand for small business, well, in their time in office, all they did was punish small business again and again. And unlike the other party leaders, I set up my first small business in 1993. For 30 years, I've run small businesses. For 30 years, I've known what the ups and downs of running a small business are like. Many was the time when it came to meeting the monthly payroll, when the staff would be earning a lot more money than me. I know how tough it can be. I know how legislation impacts on small business, and I know how much time is taken up with bureaucracy if you run a small business. And yet, just think back over the last few years. The IR35 rules brought in by the Conservative Party, affecting every single self-employed sole trader in this country, frankly, in the most bureaucratic and the most ridiculous way. I think it all comes from Treasury thinking that says that anybody in the private sector simply must be a crook, and only those of us in Whitehall are the good guys. The IR35 rules have made life very, very difficult for self-employed contractors, and frankly, they simply need to be scrapped. And let's allow the self-employed, who don't get sick pay or anything else, let's allow them to carry on with their lives. These businesses also hit by Jeremy Hunt's astonishing 30% increase in corporation tax in one go. In one fell swoop, put up corporation tax by 30%. And what that means is that all of these companies have less money to reinvest in their own businesses. Yet, again, that simply doesn't seem to be understood. And now we have a proposal from the Labour government that sole traders and small businesses, rather than filing annual returns to HMRC, will now be asked to file quarterly returns to HMRC, which just adds to cost, time, and bureaucracy. You can listen all you like to Labour, telling us that the Employment Rights Bill will make life better for employees. Well, maybe. If you're a big company with 5,000 or 10,000 staff, maybe you can deal with the increased cost and employee risk of the Employment Rights Bill. But what if you're a small business, just employing 3 people, and Labour bring in legislation whereby someone you take on could start to take action against you after literally the first day in work? There is no understanding of the impact of legislation. And that is because government only listens to big business. I saw this myself in my 20 years in Brussels. The big companies had their own lobbying offices, and it's not dissimilar here in Westminster. It's the big businesses that take you to Wimbledon. It's the big businesses that take people out for dinner. It's the big businesses that shape policy, and the small businesses, frankly, don't even get a look in. And yet, when you think about it, that's remarkable, because over 99% of all businesses in this country are small businesses with fewer than 50 employees. Think of that. Over 99% of businesses. And think of this. 50% of those employed in the private sector, I'm talking about over 13 million people, are directly employed by small businesses. And yet, think again of what this Labour government has done. NIC of itself has had a massive impact on all of these people as employers. But just think, reducing the level at which NIC becomes appropriate to $5,000 a year, whilst at the same time putting up the minimum wage for under 18s by 18%, has meant 50,000 fewer teenagers have jobs today than did this time last year. Legislation that might work for big firms doesn't work for small firms. And I think the other great betrayal, and it is that, is every one of these millions of businesses, every one of these 5.6 million businesses believed that with Brexit, the regulatory burden on their shoulders would become less. And yet I can tell you, a decade on almost, from the referendum, that in every single industry, from financial services to fisheries, the burden of regulation, the threat of the regulator is worse now than it was then. In fact, I know many businesses literally live in fear of the inspector walking through the door, who in many cases seem to take an almost perverse pleasure at doing down small business. Some on the left will tell you, well, the economy is failing because capitalism is failing. No, we're not living in capitalism. We're living in an age of global corporatism. We're living in an age where the big businesses virtually control and own the political arena. Capitalism is what these people do. Free enterprise is what these people do. These people take risks. They risk their own money. They go to the bank and borrow money. They've no idea at the start whether their business concept will work or not. And many of them will have failures along the way. But that's what free market enterprise is about. It's about risk. It's about reward. It's about failure. And some of them, who despite everything, go on, succeed, make lots of money, well, they're almost treated in Britain as if they've done something wrong. As if morally it's wrong to be successful. Morally it's wrong to make money. Well, what a reform government will do is everything we can do from the education system onwards to change that culture. We will champion hard work. We will champion success. We will look to advertise men and women who we see as British heroes because they've set things up and they've succeeded. And think about it. Every big business, and by the way, there are only 8,000 big businesses in the whole of the UK against all the other millions such as yourselves. But every big business starts as a small business. Every innovation comes originally from somebody who's got a new idea. With good small business, with a healthy marketplace, you get increased choice for customers, you get better pricing, and you get better and greater technological development. I'm fearful. I am fearful that this budget won't understand any of that. And well, of course, everything about this budget will be to attack hard work, attack saving, attack aspiration. But if Rachel Reeves does make changes to dividend income, etc., I can see a lot of small businesses, especially those in the tech space, just thinking, you know what? I'll hop on a plane to Dublin and I'll work from there. It'll be just so much easier. I fear the flight of business, the lack of investment in this country will get significantly worse if Reeves does touch dividends. So my message today is very, very simple. The Conservatives betrayed you on small business. Labour doesn't have any comprehension of actually what you do as small business. We do. We get it. I've been in business, I've run my own businesses, as many of my colleagues have, as thousands of our members have. And so today, as we launch Small Business for Reform, we are looking for tens of thousands of businesses up and down this country to join this organization. We will put in place a board. We will work together to produce the right policies for small business, for entrepreneurship, for startups, for our manifesto, for the next general election. But more than that, we will become a very strong voice and a very strong lobby for small business as an ongoing part of the national debate in this country. And it's a debate, frankly, that has not been heard for far too long. I feel passionately about this. I will certainly be heavily involved with this organization. This is in my blood. I know it's in yours too. And I believe we'll get a very large number of people come and join us, join this organization, help us build a council. Let's give this the single most ignored group of people in this country. 5.6 million businesses, 13 million staff, 50% of jobs in the private sector. It's about time they had a voice, and we intend to give them that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, our first small business entrepreneur, somebody who started very small, but went on to become very successful, and now acts as a mentor to others that want to get into business, establish themselves, become successful, is a man called Kevin Byrne. He founded something a few years ago called Check a Trade. I'm pleased to say that Kevin Byrne is not going to emigrate. He's going to help us make this a country for entrepreneurs, startups, and small businesses, and I'm very pleased to welcome him to the stage now. All right.
Nigel, thank you very much.
Good. Enjoy.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and I'm sorry I've got my back to you. Apologies. I've spent, as you've seen on there, most of my life working either as a sole trader or a small business, and then I got to a national brand, and then I sold it. So there's very little that I have not experienced, gone through as a businessman in this world. I can remember when I was in my 20s and my children started to appear. And this is how it all started. My wife said to me, "Kev, look at the state of the carpets." So I thought, maybe I could go out and get a carpet cleaning machine and start. And from that, it's where you advertise. And from that, you put something together. And from that, it leads on to something else. But that whole journey is incredibly difficult, as you will all know, the people around this auditorium today that have built a business. But when I was preparing this speech, I was thinking on what I should say in such a short amount of time. And about 3 months ago, off my own back, I thought I'd put a paper together for Nigel, and I called it Small Business is Britain. And I just want to read you the opening part of this because it's so powerful. Some of these numbers have changed since, so bear with me. 5.6 million SMEs, 99% of all firms, 16.7 million people employed. That's 50 to 60% of the private sector. 2.8 trillion turnover, half the economy, half. I want to emphasize that because in my business, if I had something that was responsible for half the income, man, I would give it all of my attention. But what attention do we get? And I wrote this: confidence is at rock bottom. Insolvencies are at a 14-year high. Over half of all owners say trading is worse than 5 years ago, and most have shelved plans to grow. How sad is that? Risk takers feel punished, as Nigel was saying. Before a penny of profit, the tax man takes his cut. Add in the red tape, late payments, high costs, and entrepreneurs stop growing or they leave the UK. Isn't that a terrible place to be? So whether you are thinking of starting a business, or you're a one-man band, or you're a limited company, or you're a national brand, I've been there and I know what the journey's like. And there's very little that anyone can tell me that I haven't experienced or been through myself. But let me bring it right back down to the basics. A very good friend of mine, he actually used to work with me in building my business. He moved to Northumberland. His name's Andrew. And he started a cafe. And I speak to him regularly. And he said to me, Kev, I haven't built my business because of the government or any help that's been offered. I've built my business despite the government and the lack of help. And that is such a terrible indictment, isn't it? For us that are just trying to be the backbone, the heroes of the economy of the UK. We, the tradesmen, the business owners of the UK, we fix people's houses, we transport them, we build their cars, we feed them, we clothe you, we entertain you. Absolutely the backbone of the UK, and yet the neglect from this government and previous governments is absolutely staggering. You'll know as a business person that's self-employed, you don't work from 9 to 5. For me, I got up in the morning, opened my laptop, and when I'd finished for the day at 12 o'clock at night, I would close my laptop and go to bed. Who else experiences that? Most of us, a lot of people nodding their heads. And it's tough, but where's the help? I learned something in my business, building a national brand, that most of us are like the rest of us. And if you can build the right environment, things will grow. I learned that people, your workforce, the small trades of the UK, they want to feel appreciated. They want to feel understood. They want to be able to work with integrity and a strong moral purpose. They want to be trusted, but above all, and this is what I think is probably the most important thing, they've got to have a vision for the future. And right now, I just don't feel or see or sense there's a vision for this country outside of reform. I was asked before I come on the stage, Kev, why have you come over to reform? And I said, it's desperation and disappointment. It's disappointment. So I want to look at very briefly those 5 things. Appreciation, understanding, trust, integrity, vision, and apply that between the government and ourselves as small businesses. Where is the appreciation from the government? I had to have that in my company to make it work. Where is the understanding from the government about our strifes and issues and problems building small businesses? There isn't any. And where's the trust in us? I don't think there is any trust at all. What about integrity? Now, I think a lot of, particularly builders and plumbers and the like, they're under a huge amount of pressure when it comes to operating with integrity, cash jobs, etc. And I wonder how much is being lost to revenue through situations like that. But they feel they're being forced into that corner. And where's the vision that this government and past governments have given us as small businesses? I can't think of anything at all. Can you? The tragedy is this, and it's twofold. 30% of all small businesses fail within the first 2 years. That's the first tragedy. The second tragedy is this. With the fast approaching employment rights bill, wow. Has a businessman put that together? Has someone that actually employs people put that together? I don't believe they have. Because you just simply wouldn't put those things in place. So how many people that are one-man bands that want to start to move forward and employ someone are going to go, I ain't doing that. Not with all those regulations, not with all of those things that are put upon me. If I employ someone and I've got all that to go through from day one, I ain't going to do it. So what's that going to do as a knock-on effect in 4 years, 5 years, 10 years for the economy? If just 1 in 4 people say, I am not going to do this because of this, what's that going to do to the economy? What's that going to do for the small businesses in years to come? It's tragic. But now, let's imagine there's an opposite. Let's imagine that there is a government that truly appreciates small businesses. There's a government that truly puts themselves out to really understand the pressures that we have been under and are under as a business. I know lots of people that are one-man bands, two-man bands. And I'll say to them, how much time do you spend in regulation? How much time do you spend in trying to tick all the boxes that we need to tick? Oh, Kev, hours and hours and hours. Well, okay, if you were to combine all that into a year, how long would it be? 2, 3 weeks of my time? Good grief. They should be out there servicing, not having to cope with red tape. So, what is it that this country needs? It needs a system that encourages people, a system that will help that one-man band take that leap without the fear or the bureaucracy that's associated to it. We need that. Imagine if success was recognized and appreciated and applauded in the UK. Do you know the United States economy at the moment is growing? I think it's 3 times the rate of ours. And that's because of those very things. They celebrate success. They celebrate the entrepreneurs in their country. And they are doing their best to remove all the barriers to make those companies a success. What we have in the UK today is simply madness. It is simply madness. But all we need is the right environment. That's all we need. And we need a vision. We need someone like Nigel to get on this podium and have that national voice and say, this is one of the most important aspects that the UK has got today. Half the economy comes from us as small business people. Now, I know this is going to be a huge mountain to climb for Nigel and the Reform Party. Huge. Every month, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me, every month the situation gets worse for the UK. So I say roll on the next election. I believe if we back the doers, the makers, the fixers, we will rebuild the pride in the UK. We'll rebuild the family in the UK. We'll rebuild the community in the UK. But most of all, we'll rebuild the hope that we all need. Here's one simple truth, which I'll finish on. When Britain's small businesses thrive, Britain will thrive as well. Thank you.
Lots of passion. Well done. Kevin, thank you. That was really powerful, really passionate. Were you listening, Rachel Reeves? Oh, I don't think so. Even though she was a senior economist at the Bank of England for 10 years, you know. No, I suspect much of what's been said this morning will be met by a blank wall of incomprehension in government and on the front benches, as they simply don't have a clue. I wouldn't even be surprised if elements of what Kevin had said today are not picked up and used by the Prime Minister in PMQs this Wednesday. Mind you, at least David Lammy made Starmer look good, didn't he? I mean... Now, back to the serious stuff. The first thing I want to do is say a big thank you, a very big public thank you to Lord Bamford and JCB Excavators for their recent donation to us of £200,000, and I really am very thankful indeed for that. And they've given a lot of money, over £10 million to the Conservatives over the years, but they're giving us some money because they know that we are pro-entrepreneurship. They know that we are pro-startup. They know that we are pro-small business. And Lord Bamford himself describes small business, rather as Kevin just did, as the backbone of the British economy. Nobody in Westminster has understood this or talked about this for years. Today is just the start of you hearing a lot about this, I promise you.